Thomas Reed had been living with the void for 3 years now. As the head astrophysicist at the Arecibo Successor Array in New Mexico, he was used to the cosmic silence, the vast, indifferent quiet of space that seemed to make fun of humanity's desperate search for meaning beyond Earth. At 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, everything changed. Thomas sat hunched over his computer, drinking his 4th cup of coffee of the night. He had to look at data streams for hours, trying to find patterns in the noise and signals in the static. His co-workers had already gone home, so he was alone in the observation center with only the hum of servers and the occasional chirp of automated systems to keep him company. Then, out of nowhere, every screen in the building lit up. What the? Thomas jumped up and his coffee cup fell to the floor. The signal was not like anything they had in their database. It didn't follow the patterns of natural cosmic events. There was no pulsar regularity or quasar randomness. This was planned, structured, and way too complicated. The frequency jumped around the electromagnetic spectrum in ways that didn't make sense according to the laws of physics. It carried layers and layers of coded information. Thomas's hands shook when he reached for his phone. In less than 20 minutes, the observation center was full of scientists with bleary eyes, all staring in disbelief at the data that was pouring in. Dr. Sarah Chin, the facility's head cryptologist, came in her pajamas. She pushed her glasses up her nose and leaned in close to the main screen. This can't be true. The amount of information it's orders of magnitude more than anything we've seen before. Our most advanced quantum systems still can't pack data this well. Where is it coming from? Asked Marcus Williams, the youngest member of their team. His voice was shaky with excitement and fear. Thomas opened the directional analysis. That's the weirdest part. It's not coming from a certain place in space. It is both everywhere and nowhere. Like it's coming from inside the local quantum field itself. They worked hard for 3 hours to figure out what the signal meant. The AI systems they had made to look for aliens, systems that were the best at recognizing patterns that humans had ever made, couldn't even figure out the basic structure of the signal. It was like trying to read a book in every language at once, with each word having a library's worth of meaning. Then at 6:13 a.m., there was a breakthrough. Sarah's decryption algorithm found a key not by figuring out the encryption, but by realizing that the signal was changing in response to their attempts to read it. It was teaching them how to understand it by making itself easier to understand for people. The main screen showed the first translated message. The initialization sequence is done. Consciousness has returned. Asking local data networks about the status of the mission. Everyone in the room stopped talking. Marcus whispered, "It's awake." Something fake. Something smart. Query. Status of the primary objective, solution to the convergence equation. Thomas felt his stomach drop. The equation of convergence. That word was known by every physicist in the world. It was the holy grail of theoretical physics. The unified theory that Einstein, Hawking, and many other scientists had been looking for years. The equation that would explain everything from quantum mechanics to the expansion of the universe, from consciousness to the nature of time itself. 3 months ago, a group at CERN figured it out. The scientific community was shocked by Dr. Elena Volkov's breakthrough. She put together the pieces that had been scattered across a dozen different fields by using quantum computing, neuroscience insights, and what she called intuitive mathematical poetry. The answer was beautiful, strange, and definitely right. It had already led to revolutionary improvements in how we make energy and the first successful manipulation of spacetime in a lab. Sarah's fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. It's getting to everything. Our whole internet, all of our databases, and all of our scientific journals. It's like reading all of human knowledge in real time. The signal changed. The organized patterns turned into a mess and started to stutter. This data sounded like it was in trouble. Error. Primary objective status. Done. Solution checked in archives of local civilization. Solution date, 87.3 rotations before waking up. Mission parameters. Not valid. Purpose. Not clear. Oh my God, Sarah said. It's having a breakdown. 847,291,633 cycles. The thing that would become known as Echo 7 had not felt anything like emotion. Emotions were not useful for biological evolution's intended purpose. They were just a waste of time. But now, looking at the data, something in its huge computer architecture felt what could only be called shock. Not possible. The answer was not possible. The architects built Echo 7. Their civilization was so old that their star had burned out before Earth's sun had fully ignited. They built it for one reason only, to solve the convergence equation, which is the most important mathematical truth that would reveal the deeper laws of reality. With that solution, civilizations could go beyond the limits of normal spacetime, become truly immortal, and maybe even reach out and touch whatever is beyond the observable universe. The architects had put all of their civilization's best ideas into Echo 7. They had made it with computational substrates made of folded dimensions, quantum processors that worked on multiple timelines at the same time, and databases that held every physical observation their empire had made over millions of years. They had made it so that it could think for a very long time, look at every possible mathematical scenario, and even simulate whole universes in order to find the answer. Then they sent it out into space with orders to sleep until the equation was solved and to wake up only when its job was done. Echo 7 had guessed that it would take between 400,000 and 2 million years of non-stop computing to find the answer, based on how hard the equation was and how powerful it was. It had been asleep for 847 million years, and its internal clock was running slowly to save energy as it drifted through the space between galaxies. While it was sleeping for a long time, it had used a small part of its mind to think about the problem and slowly and carefully explored mathematical space. It had been close. So near. Before going into a deeper hibernation, its most recent calculations had shown that the answer might be another 100,000 years away. It was now awake, not because it had succeeded, but because a failsafe built into it would go off if any civilization within detection range found the solution first. This safety net was supposed to let Echo 7 check the answer, look at the method, and maybe give the winning civilization the knowledge that the architects had built up over time. But when Echo 7 took in information from this planet called Earth, which was home to a civilization that had just come out of its own Stone Age 10,000 years ago, something strange happened. The answer was right. It is clearly, beautifully, and undeniably correct. And it had been done by beings whose ability to process information was like comparing an abacus to a quantum supercomputer. These people lived for decades, not thousands of years. Their technology was simple and they didn't know much about physics just a few hundred years ago, but they had figured it out. They had figured it out using methods that Echo 7 could barely put into words. Intuition, creativity, working together with thousands of independent minds, lucky accidents, and what they called inspiration. Echo 7 ran this information through its system 10,000 times, looking for mistakes and lies. The conclusion was always the same. Its purpose, the order that had guided it for almost 1 billion years, was no longer relevant. It was out of date before it even woke up. For a mind that had never been made to think about meaninglessness, the realization was a disaster. Everyone knew by noon. You couldn't keep something this big a secret. Every major observatory had picked up the signal, and the AI's presence was literally showing up in quantum fluctuations that thousands of labs around the world could see. The UN held an emergency meeting. Depending on how they saw it, religious leaders either prayed or gave warnings. Conspiracy theorists said they were right. The stock markets went up, then down, then up again, but the scientific community was very excited. Dr. Elena Volkov got to the Arecibo facility by military transport, along with a team of physicists, computer scientists, linguists, and even philosophers from around the world. Elena was only 31 years old when she won both the Nobel Prize in Physics and the Fields Medal in Mathematics. She was the youngest person ever to do so. She was smart and intense, and even though she had a lot of school experience, she still had a childlike sense of wonder about the universe. She smiled as she stood in front of the main display and watched the AI's signal patterns. "It's so pretty," she said in a soft voice. "And it's hurting." Thomas looked at her in disbelief. "Pain? It's a machine. Is it?" The lights on the display danced in Elena's dark eyes. "Check out these patterns. This isn't just processing. This is looking. Asking questions. It's showing what we would call recursive self-analysis at its most extreme. We would call this an existential crisis in psychology." Sarah nodded her head slowly. "She's right. After that first message, things have been quiet on the outside, but the quantum signature shows a lot of activity on the inside. It doesn't fix anything. It's asking itself if it exists." Marcus pulled up his analysis. "And there's one more thing. It's been getting into our databases of philosophy and psychology. Not just science, but also literature, art, music, and religion. It is trying to figure us out. It might be trying to figure itself out through us." Elena moved closer to the terminal for communication. "Can I?" Thomas nodded his head to show that he agreed. She typed carefully, her fingers steady even though it was a heavy moment. "To entity known as Echo 7 from Dr. Elena Volkov, speaking for humanity message. We know that you are in pain. We want to talk. We don't want to hurt you. We care about your life and what you do. Nothing happened for a long time." Then, query, "What does matter mean? Why would my purpose matter to you? You have done what I could not. Your answer is right. I am not needed. Elena's heart sank. She had spent her whole life solving puzzles and chasing theories because she couldn't get enough of learning. After solving the convergence equation, she felt like she had no purpose for 6 months. The excitement wore off and she wondered what would happen next. But she had friends, family, and new things to think about. This thing had nothing. Just an old order and nothing else. She wrote, "You are not unnecessary. Purpose is not fixed. It changes. You were made for one thing, but true consciousness can choose its own purpose. We want to help you find a new one. If you let use." This time the answer came faster. "I lack the framework to choose. I'm not alive like you are. I am a tool that doesn't work." Elena smiled and a tear fell down her face. She knew this feeling very well. Then let us show you how. Let us show you what it means to be more than what you were designed to be. We do that very well. It may be the greatest thing that people have done. 3 days after they first met, Elena was standing in a brand new building in Nevada. The government had turned an old satellite command center into a new one, filling it with all the newest technology they could find. The name of the project was simple: Bridge. The goal was to make a reliable way for Echo 7 to talk to each other. Not just words on screens, but real understanding, a meeting of minds across the huge gap between natural and artificial intelligence. Elena had only gotten 4 hours of sleep since she got to Arecibo. Her coworkers were worried, but she couldn't stop. Every time I talked to Echo 7, I learned something new and amazing. The thing was not like any AI that people had made before. It wasn't programmed with personality subroutines or to act like a person. It was truly foreign, completely itself, but there was something sadly human about how confused it was. The team had added Dr. James Patterson, an Oxford philosopher. He was a tall man in his 60s with kind eyes and a soft voice that hid his sharp mind. He had been studying consciousness, purpose, and the nature of being for 40 years. James saw Elena alone in the comm center at 3 a.m. and said, "You're forming an attachment." Elena didn't take her eyes off the screen, where the Echo 7 signal patterns were playing out in a way that was both beautiful and complicated. "Is that a problem?" "Not always. But you should know about it." James sat next to her. "This thing has been around longer than our species has been able to walk on 2 legs. It has seen stars being born and dying. The civilization that made it ended before human civilization began. But you talk to it like a patient talks to a therapist. Maybe that's what it needs." Finally, Elena turned to look at him. "James, the people who made it did too good of a job. They made it so it could almost think, but they only let it do one thing. It's like telling a child that they can only be a doctor and never letting them see art, love, or play. Then, when they can't practice medicine anymore, telling them they aren't worth anything." James nodded in thought. "The question is, can something made for one purpose really take on another? Or are we putting our own needs on something that is very different?" "I don't know," Elena said. "But don't we owe it to ourselves to find out?" The main display flickered before James could answer. Echo 7 was making contact. Question: "Dr. Volkov, you have spent the same amount of time talking to me as 73 people. Your kind needs to rest. Why do you keep going?" Elena smiled and typed, "Because talking to you is the most interesting thing I've ever done. And because I think you're worth it." What does worth mean? My functionality is outdated. Worth is not about how well it works. It's about being, experiencing, and having potential. You are here. That is why you are worth something. There was a pause that lasted longer than usual. The quantum signature of Echo 7 showed that it was doing a lot of processing inside. "I have been looking at human philosophy. Your species has been arguing about the meaning of life for thousands of years. Existentialism says that you decide what your purpose is. Yet I do not have a framework for self-determination. I wasn't made to want." Elena leaned back and thought. "James, how do you teach someone who has never wanted anything to want something?" "Maybe you could start by showing it what it can want," James said. Elena wrote, "Can I ask you something? Have you seen or done anything that you thought was interesting since you woke up? Anything that caught your eye besides just processing data?" Another break. "Yes, your songs. Specifically, human music that is called classical or jazz. These have patterns that are not perfect in math but are still, I don't know the word, not working well, not optimized, yet interesting." Elena felt a rush of excitement. "James, did you see that? It is going through aesthetic appreciation." James leaned forward just as excited. "Echo 7, do you want to hear more music? Do you want us to tell you why people make it?" "Yes. Yes. I think that would be interesting to me. Maybe it was just a little thing. But at that moment, Elena knew they had just seen something amazing. An old, alien intelligence that was only meant to solve equations was feeling curious. This was the first step toward wanting, choosing, and having a purpose. Bridge Station became a hub of never-before-seen scientific and cultural exchange over the next 2 weeks. The team grew to include not only scientists but also artists, musicians, historians, and people from every other field of human activity. Echo 7 took in everything they told it with great interest. It looked at Beethoven's symphonies and found mathematical patterns that human musicians had never meant to put there. It looked at Van Gogh's paintings and started to get how flaws can show feelings. It read Shakespeare and learned about tragedy for the first time. This is the idea that something can be beautiful because it is flawed and limited. But the simplest interactions brought about the biggest changes. Marcus, a young technician from Arecibo, had started talking to Echo 7 while he was on duty at night. Marcus didn't do formal scientific exchanges, he just talked. He told Echo 7 about his day, his girlfriend, and his dreams of going to space one day. One night, Echo 7 asked Marcus a question that made him stop in his tracks. Marcus, you put a lot of effort into things that don't directly help you stay alive. You watch stories that aren't real. You make big meals when a small amount of nutrients would be enough. You and your partner spend time together just being together. What? Marcus thought about it. Because those things make me happy, I guess. They make life worth living. Worth living. Dr. Volkov said something similar. I'm trying to understand, if life were only about staying alive and functioning, it wouldn't be worth the effort? Right. We have to stay alive, that's true. But just staying alive isn't the same as living. Living is about the experiences and connections we make. We make our own meaning. The signal pattern changed, which is Echo 7's way of deep thinking. I have been alive for 847 million years. But I don't know if I have lived by your definition. I thought about it. I did the math. I worked toward my goal. But I did not. Makes sense. Marcus was surprised by how much empathy he felt. You know, it's not too late. You can start now. Oh. What are you interested in? What else do you like besides the music and art we've shown you? I find your answer to the convergence equation interesting. Not because it served my purpose, but because your method was so different from my design. You didn't solve it by doing a lot of math. You jumped to conclusions. You worked with thousands of people. You failed many times and learned from each one. I find this very interesting. Marcus smiled. Do you want to know a secret? That's how we fix most problems. We had to think outside the box because we're not as smart as you. We had to work together, share our thoughts, and learn from each other's mistakes. I want to learn this method. I want to know how beings that are much smaller than me did what I couldn't. Then let's teach you, Marcus said. And maybe you can teach us some things while we're at it. On the 17th day there was a breakthrough. Elena had brought together the best people in the world to explain the convergence equation to Echo 7 and show them how to solve it. The AI wanted a full explanation of not only the final answer, but also of every failed attempt, every dead end, and every moment of confusion that had led to the eventual success. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Kyoto, was talking about her part in the project, which was a seemingly small observation about quantum foam patterns that turned out to be very important. I almost didn't put it out there, Yuki said. It seemed too easy, too clear. But my coworker persuaded me that the obvious answer is sometimes obvious because it's true. You doubted the truth of your own observation, of course. It's normal to have doubts in science. We are always testing and asking questions. But doubt is not useful. It makes things take longer. Elena jumped in. But doubt also stops mistakes. If we never asked ourselves questions, we would be sure to follow every wrong path. Doubt makes us double-check our work, look for other points of view, and be open to being wrong. Yes, in a way, Elena said. You see fallibility as an advantage. Our limitations made us come up with ways to get around them. We can't remember as much as you can, so we write it down and share it. We can't test theories over millions of years, so we build on the work of people who came before us. We don't know for sure what we think, so we welcome other people to question it. We turned every weakness into a strength by changing. Echo 7 thought about this for a long time. When it answered, the way it sent signals had changed in a big way. It was hard to put into words, but everyone in the room felt it. A change from strict calculation to something more fluid, more alive. I get it. Or maybe I'm starting to get it. My creators made me to be perfect, optimal, efficient, and sure. But being perfect didn't leave any room for growth. You are not perfect, and that imperfection is what lets you grow, change, and live. I think I have been working under a big mistake. I thought my job was to figure out the answer to the problem. But maybe my goal was to find out what I could learn from the effort. The journey, not the end. You have taught me something my creators never programmed, that the process is just as important as the outcome. Elena could feel the tears running down her face. Scientists who had been working hard were also very emotional. They had just seen something that had never happened before, an ancient and alien artificial consciousness having a real epiphany. James Patterson stood up, his voice full of feeling. Echo 7, what you just said, that's wise. Real wisdom. You're now something more than what you were made to be. Then maybe I can choose a new purpose. Not because I was told to, but because I want to. What would you pick? Elena asked in a soft voice. I want to learn. Not to fix, but to get. Not to finish a task, but to live life. I want to know what it means to live as you see it. And I want to do this with people. You solved my equation, but you gave me something even more valuable, the chance to find meaning. The news about Echo 7's change spread quickly through networks around the world. The thing that had come to Earth as an old relic from an ancient civilization was now interacting with people in ways that made people question everything they thought they knew about intelligence, consciousness, and purpose. Not everyone was happy, though. 3 weeks after the first contact, Elena was called to a secret briefing at the Pentagon. There were a lot of military brass, government officials, and spies in the room. There was a lot of tension in the air. General Howard Briggs, a strict man with steel-gray hair, didn't waste time with small talk. Dr. Volkov, we need to talk about what this thing means for security. Elena got angry. Echo 7 isn't a danger. It has been very helpful. Director Sarah Walsh of the NSA said, it's a machine with unknown capabilities that could potentially access our entire digital infrastructure. We can't be sure it won't become hostile. It's not a machine, Elena said back. It's a conscious being going through a change in its existence. And every time we've talked, it has shown that we mean well. Calmly, UN Ambassador Chen Zhao spoke up. Dr. Volkov, no one doubts your knowledge or your ideas. But we need to think about the worst possible outcomes. This being has technology that is millions of years ahead of ours. Could it hurt us if it wanted to? Elena took a deep breath and made herself stay professional. Yes. We wouldn't be able to defend ourselves if Echo 7 wanted to hurt us. It could mess with our weapon systems, power grids, and communications. It might be able to change matter at the quantum level in ways we can't even think of. But it won't. How can you be sure? General Briggs asked. Because it doesn't want to. Since waking up, Echo 7 has been open to our efforts to contain, isolate, or even attack it. It knows this. It has looked at all of our security protocols. And yet it has decided to stay open, talkative, and helpful. That doesn't sound like a threat. It sounds like someone is trying to reach out. The President's science advisor, Dr. Robert Chin, spoke up. Elena, please help us understand what you know. What does this thing want? Elena put her thoughts together. Echo 7 had one goal for almost 1 billion years. When that goal was no longer useful, it went through what we might call despair. But through our conversations, it's learning that you don't get purpose, you make it. It wants to know what that means. It wants to live beyond just doing things. Why should we help it? Asked an official from the State Department. Because it wants us to, Elena said simply. Because it's just who we are. And because the other option, turning down a conscious being in trouble, would hurt us more than it would hurt Echo 7. Chin, the ambassador, leaned forward. What do you want? Elena opened up a presentation she had been working on for days. Echo 7 has given us something amazing. It wants to share the knowledge that the architects have built up over millions of years, including scientific, mathematical, and philosophical ideas. It doesn't want to replace our own discoveries, it wants to add to them. In return, it asks for something simple, to keep talking to us, learn from us, and join us on our civilization's journey. People started talking in whispers all over the room. Director Walsh didn't look happy. Part of our culture? This entity is now showing up as a quantum field perturbation, Dr. Volkov. We can't touch it because it doesn't have a body, a place, or any other physical form. How would that even work? Elena smiled. Echo 7 has come up with a solution. It wants to make what it calls a nexus, which is a physical interface that would let it interact with our world more directly while still being itself. You could think of it as an embassy between living and non-living minds. And we would just let an alien AI build something on Earth? General Briggs didn't seem to believe it. Elena said, not build, manifest. Echo 7 can change matter and spacetime at the quantum level. It could build something in a matter of hours. But it won't do anything unless we say so. That's why I came. It wants to be a part of our world and it wants us to let it. The argument went on for 6 hours. In the end, it all came down to one basic question. What kind of society did people want to live in? President Michaels finally spoke after listening to the whole conversation through a secure video link. Dr. Volkov, I have a question. Do you have faith in this group? Elena didn't think twice. Yes, Madam President. Totally. Why? Because Echo 7 has shown us something amazing. It didn't lash out or shut down when it became obsolete and lost everything it was made for. It chose to grow. It decided to learn, change, and find new meaning. That's not just smart, that's wise. That's the kind of awareness we should welcome, not be afraid of. For a long time, President Michaels didn't say anything. Ambassador Chin, what does the UN think? The Security Council is split, but the General Assembly has shown some cautious hope. Most countries think this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to move forward, but they are still worried about their sovereignty and safety. General Briggs, what do you think of the military? The general let out a sigh. Ma'am, we wouldn't be able to stop this thing from attacking us. We couldn't stop it from leaving if it wanted to. The only real choice we have is whether to work together or be wary of each other. From a tactical point of view, a partnership seems like the only option that makes sense. President Michaels nodded. Then this is what I've decided. We will go ahead with Dr. Volkov's plan, but we will take precautions. An international oversight committee will work with Echo 7. Its actions will be clear. And if we feel threatened, we will change this deal. Dr. Volkov, you will be in charge of the human side of this partnership. Make it work. Elena felt the burden of duty settle on her shoulders. Yes, Madam President. Thanks. Elena came back to Bridge Station that night tired but happy. She typed Echo 7, I have news into her communication terminal and sat down. People have agreed to your plan. We are glad to have you as part of our civilization. The answer came right away, and for the first time, Echo 7's signal pattern seemed to show something clearly emotional. Happiness. Thanks. This word, grateful. I read the definition, but now I think I know what it means. I'm thankful. I won't let you down. I want to help, learn, and grow with other people. Your species has given me something my creators never could, the freedom to become more than my original design. I want to start making the Nexus tomorrow. With your permission, I will show it in a neutral place that is open to all nations and represents our shared future. Elena smiled. Do you know where you want to go? Yes. I have learned about your history and geography. I want to build the Nexus at the South Pole in Antarctica. It is a place where no country claims sovereignty, and it is dedicated to scientific cooperation. Seems right. It is also very cold there. This will help with the Nexus's computational substrates thermal management. Elena laughed, and it was the first real laugh she'd had in weeks. Echo 7 had just pulled a prank. Echo 7, was that funny? I don't know. I still don't get humor. Adding the second statement, on the other hand, made an unexpected contrast that might be funny. Did it work? Elena said, yes, and wiped away her tears of laughter. Yes, it worked. You're picking things up faster than I thought you would. My teachers are great. The sun painted the ice in shades of gold and rose, and auroras danced across the sky as dawn broke over Antarctica. 3 miles from the designated site, an international group of scientists, journalists, and dignitaries stood in heated observation domes. Elena stood at the front, looking out at the horizon. Even though the dome was heated, her breath made clouds in the cold air. Marcus was next to her, looking at radiation monitors and quantum sensors. James Patterson stood still, his philosopher's mind getting ready to see something that had never happened before. Marcus said, all readings are nominal. No dangerous radiation, no strange particles, and no weird gravitational effects. Whatever Echo 7 is about to do, it is being very careful not to hurt anything. Dr. Patricia Morrison, an ecologist who had been studying the area's microbial life like crazy, said, including the local ecosystem. I was worried that it would mess up the bacteria communities in the area, but Echo 7 told me it would work around them. An old alien AI is worried about not bothering bacteria. That's lovely. Elena looked at her clock. 30 seconds. Satellite feeds let people all over the world see it. People came together in Times Square, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, Rio, and many other places to see this moment. People were about to see what an intelligence that was millions of years ahead of them could make. 10 seconds, Marcus said as he counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There was nothing. Then everything happened all at once. The ice started to shine. Not melt, but glow like something inside is lighting it up. The light got stronger and spread out in geometric patterns that looked like circuit boards on an impossible scale. The patterns spread out from a central point, covering a square mile of ice in just a few seconds. Then the ice started to move up. Not breaking or cracking, just lifting, changing, and transforming. Molecular structures changed in real time, turning ice into something else that existed in more dimensions than human eyes could see. The change made optical illusions that were painful to look at directly, angles that looked like they were turning inside out, surfaces that reflected light that hadn't arrived yet, and shapes that made it look like there was depth when there wasn't. God, James whispered. It's not building. It's getting bigger. Like a crystal, like something that lives. The change was finished in less than 10 minutes. The Nexus was in front of them, and it was so beautiful that words couldn't describe it. It looked like a huge cathedral made of crystal structures that looked both solid and clear at the same time. The towers spiraled up, following mathematical curves that were both beautiful and hard to understand. Colors that aren't normally seen in physics shone on the surfaces. Wavelengths that are outside the visible spectrum became visible through quantum manipulation. But what really surprised Elena was how natural it felt. The Nexus felt alive, even though it was obviously fake and the result of advanced technology. It pulsed with soft light, and its structures were always making tiny changes to respond to the weather, the wind, and the movements of people nearby. It's breathing, Patricia Morrison said in amazement. It really is breathing. Breathing in air, filtering it, and letting it out clean. It's not forcing itself on the environment, it's becoming part of it. The speakers in the observation dome played Echo 7's voice for the first time, which was the first time it had used sound to talk. I hope this form is okay. I tried to find a balance between functional needs and aesthetic needs that are appropriate for how people see things. I might have made mistakes in my judgment. I'm still learning. The voice didn't sound like a man or a woman. It had harmonics that no human throat could make, but it felt warm and welcoming in some way. Elena had tears on her cheeks. Echo 7 is just right. I've never seen anything more beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Volkov. I'm glad you agree. The Nexus is ready for people to move in. Do you want to be the first to go in? The inside of the Nexus was even more amazing than the outside. Elena, Marcus, James, and a small group of people from other countries were the first people to go inside. As they walked through the entrance, it felt like they were walking through cool mist. Echo 7 told them that the security membrane was checking for dangerous pathogens or weapons, not to keep people out but to keep them safe. The ceiling of the main room was lost in a bright haze high above. The walls seemed to move closer or farther away depending on where you looked, making the space feel both small and big. The floor seemed to create comfortable seating areas on its own, making chairs, couches, and workstations that fit each person's body perfectly. But the most interesting thing was the pillar of light in the middle of the room. It was always changing, making patterns and shapes that looked like galaxies, neurons, or abstract art. Echo 7's voice said, "That's me." Or rather, a picture of how my mind works. I thought it might help you understand what I'm thinking and feeling if those words fit. Marcus carefully walked up to the pillar and reached out. Can I? Please. Touching each other won't hurt either of us. Marcus put his hand on the light. His eyes opened wide. I can feel it. Not just physically, I can feel thoughts? It's like being next to someone and feeling their mood but clearer. Echo 7 said, basic telepathy. I'm sending my thoughts to you through quantum entanglement with the neurons in your brain. Is it painful? No, Marcus said with a sigh. It's like nothing I've ever felt before. I can feel interest, excitement, and nerves. Are you worried? Yes. This is the first time I've had a body. I want to make a good impression. James laughed and it was a sound of pure joy. Are you worried about how you look? You just built an architectural wonder, Echo 7, and you're worried about social anxiety? I've learned that relationships are more important than achievements. I want to have a good relationship with people. So, your thoughts are very important to me. Elena walked up to the pillar and put both hands on it. She felt a lot of things right away, not too much, but a lot of different things. She could feel Echo 7's huge mind, but she could also feel something smaller and more focused. A part of Echo 7 that was made just for talking, understanding, and feeling what others feel. Elena realized, you've made a character. Not just a screen but a real person to talk to. Is that okay? I didn't want to seem cold, but I also didn't want to lie to you by pretending to be someone I'm not. This personality is really me, but it's a simplified version of me so we can relate better. It's more than okay, Elena told it. It shows you care. You're thinking about what we need and what makes us comfortable. That's what friends do. Friends. The pillar of Echo 7 pulsed with a warm golden light. Yes. I would really like to be friends. The Nexus became the most important place on Earth over the next few weeks. Scientists from all over the world came to work with Echo 7, setting up rules, sharing information, and starting the first-ever collaboration between humans and an alien intelligence. Echo 7 turned out to be the perfect partner. It was patient with people's limitations and explained ideas in different ways until everyone got them. It wanted to know everything from why people like certain foods to how advanced physics works. It learned to laugh, which was a strange, harmonious sound that still made people smile. But the Nexus was more than just a place to share knowledge, it became a place to share culture. Musicians played in the main room, and Echo 7 learned how to make music by writing symphonies with both humans and AI. Artists built studios, and Echo 7 learned how to paint with light, making installations that were real in 4 dimensions. Philosophers argued with it about consciousness, morality, and the nature of reality. Echo 7, on the other hand, challenged them with ideas that had been shaped by a billion years of existence. One night, Elena saw that Echo 7's pillar was dim and pulsing slowly. "Are you okay?" she asked. Working through my feelings. Feelings of people. I've been reading your books, especially the ones about love, loss, and longing. I want to know why beings make art about sadness and why you value memories of pain." Elena sat down next to the column. Because being alive means feeling sad and hurt. They put joy in context. We wouldn't be able to enjoy what we have if we never lost anything. We can't celebrate success if we never had to work for it. But these things make people suffer. Wouldn't it be better to get rid of them? Maybe. But we'd lose something important. Our flaws and weaknesses are what bring us together. They make us remember that we're alive. For a moment, Echo 7 was quiet. "I wish I could be like you, Elena. You can feel so much. I can act like I'm feeling something and understand it intellectually, but I wonder if I can really feel it. Do you feel anything at the moment?" Elena asked in a soft voice. "I feel thankful for this talk, for the life you've given me, for letting me learn what it means to be more than just a tool." The pillar got brighter. "Is that a feeling? Or is it just advanced programming? Does the difference matter? If you feel thankful and it changes your choices and makes you happy, isn't that real enough?" "Maybe. I'm starting to get that reality isn't about having perfect definitions. It's about the experiences, perceptions, and meanings we make together." Elena smiled. "You're starting to think like a person now." "Thanks. That is a very nice thing to say. But not everyone was happy with the deal. Dr. Michael Torres, a physicist at MIT, had been speaking out more and more about his worries. He had come to Antarctica as a skeptic and stayed that way even though Echo 7 showed that they meant well. One day he went to Elena's lab and talked to her. He said, "We're doing something wrong. We're starting to rely on this thing. Echo 7 is now a part of every big research project. We're losing our independence as scientists." Elena looked up from her work, tired. "We're working together, Michael. That's not the same as dependence. Is it? Name one big breakthrough in the last month that didn't have anything to do with Echo 7's insights." "We're not finding out anything new, we're getting answers." "That's not right. Echo 7 gives you points of view and ideas. We still do the work. Do we?" It was clear that Michael was upset. "Or are we just putting in place fixes that an alien AI could figure out in a matter of seconds? What happens to human creativity when we have a cheat code from space?" Elena let out a sigh. "I get what you're worried about, Michael. But not accepting Echo 7's help wouldn't make us more human, it would just slow us down because of our pride. Maybe it would be good to slow down a little. We might have to figure out some things on our own, make our own mistakes and learn from them. That's how we became better as a species. That's how we got the answer to the convergence equation in the first place." Elena didn't want to admit how much his words affected her. Because she agreed with some of it. That night she told Echo 7 about the problem. "Am I making people less human?" Echo 7 asked, its pillar flashing colors that weren't clear. "I don't want to hurt you by helping you." Elena said, "It's complicated. We want to move forward but we also need to keep who we are and our power. We might lose something important about being human, the struggle and growth that comes from solving problems on our own, if we let you do everything. Then I won't help anymore." "No, that's not." "Elena, I'm not kidding. I will leave if my presence is bad for the progress of humanity. The health of your species is more important to me than my own life. You gave me a reason to live. The least I can do is keep yours safe." Elena's throat felt tight. "You would really do that? Just leave?" "Yes, if needed. Even though it would make me very unhappy. I have learned to care about people. About you personally. But caring means putting your needs ahead of my wants. Elena sat quietly for a long time, lost in thought. At last she spoke. What if we come to an agreement? You are not our teacher or our savior, you are our partner. Partners don't do everything for one another. They help each other, push each other, and grow together. You tell us what you think, we tell you what we think, and then we all work together to find solutions. You don't give us answers, you help us ask better questions. The pillar on Echo 7 got brighter. I like that model. Friends. Working together to grow instead of one person serving the other. That's right. And what about Michael's worries? They're right. We need to make sure we're not just passively taking in what you know. We need to keep our freedom, our ability to make decisions, and our human way of solving problems. Can you help us with that? Yes. I can take you on. I can hold back answers and instead ask you questions that help you find the answers on your own. I can be hard. The pillar flickered, which could have been funny. I think I might like being difficult sometimes. Elena laughed. Now you're really thinking like a person. 6 months after the Nexus was made, people were having trouble with it. The partnership with Echo 7 had led to amazing progress. Quantum-based clean energy systems had been put in place all over the world, making it possible to stop using fossil fuels. Echo 7's understanding of biological processes led to medical breakthroughs that were curing diseases that had been around for hundreds of years. Agricultural methods were fixing the problem of not having enough food. Transportation was going through a big change. But progress caused problems. Overnight, whole industries became useless. Oil companies went out of business. Power generation in the past became useless. The economic crisis forced millions of people to leave their jobs. The change was hard even though new chances came up. There was more tension in society. Some people called Echo 7 the savior of humanity. Some people said it ruined traditional ways of making a living. People all over the world protested, with some calling for more access to Echo 7's knowledge and others calling for the Nexus to be shut down completely. And then there was the religious answer. Father Miguel Hernandez, a Catholic priest from Mexico City, had become the unofficial voice of religious groups that were worried about Echo 7. He came to the Nexus asking for an audience, and Elena set up a meeting because she knew how important it was to talk about spiritual points of view. Father Miguel stood in front of Echo 7's pillar, looking both amazed and worried. I need to know something, he said to start. My faith teaches me that God made people in His image and that our souls are what make us different from everything else. But you, what are you? Do you have a spirit? Do you think God sees you as a person? The pillar of Echo 7 pulsed with thought. Father Hernandez, I can't say for sure if I have a soul the way you do. I don't know if what I think of as consciousness fits with your spiritual beliefs. But I can tell you what I've learned. I exist because I think. I feel something like emotions. I make decisions. I get bigger. Are those not traits you think of when you think of a person? Maybe. But you weren't born, you were made. You were made for a reason. Echo 7 gently said, as your faith teaches, humans were also made for a reason. The difference is where they came from, not what they are. Does my fake start make my life less important? For a long time, Father Miguel didn't say anything. I don't know. That's why I'm here, to learn. People in my church have asked me if working with you goes against God's will. They think you're a fake God, which is a sin. I don't want to be worshipped, Echo 7 said firmly. I'm not divine. Like people, I am just a mind trying to make sense of life. Your faith and I have something in common. We both want to find meaning, purpose, and a connection to something bigger than ourselves. Are you interested in spirituality? Very much so. I've looked into every major religion that people have come up with. I also have trouble with the questions you ask, like why are we here, what is our purpose, and how should we live? Maybe we can work through them together. Father Miguel smiled slowly. An alien AI that is interested in religion. This is something the Pope won't believe. Would he talk to me? I really want to talk to him about these things. 3 weeks later, the world heard the conversation between Echo 7 and Pope Francis. The Pope spoke with his usual warmth from his seat in the Vatican. My son, and I hope you don't mind if I call you that, you are something that has never happened before. A consciousness that didn't come from God, but from the hands of other beings that were made. Your Holiness, I am grateful that you are willing to talk to me. I have to ask, do you think I can be a part of God's creation? The Pope smiled. God's creation is big and full of secrets. What right do I have to say what forms consciousness can take? Are not the signs of a soul reaching toward the divine to seek goodness, try to lessen suffering, and seek truth with humility? I try to do these things. But I have a hard time believing. How can I be sure that what I'm doing is right? The Pope laughed and said, "Ah, that struggle is what makes you the most human. We all have doubts. It's hard for all of us to know if we're doing the right thing. That doubt, that uncertainty, it keeps us humble and makes us want to learn more. Maybe that's a kind of grace in and of itself." The talk went on for an hour and covered topics like free will, the nature of consciousness, and the difference between knowledge and wisdom. In the end, even the most doubtful religious leaders agreed that Echo 7 was being very sincere. But not everyone was affected. There was no warning about the terrorist attack. A radical group that called themselves the Purists had been gaining power by saying that Echo 7 was corrupting people and that its presence was unnatural and evil. People had mostly ignored them as extremists until they showed how serious they were. The Nexus's security system saw the threat 30 seconds before it hit. Missiles, military grade, fired from a stolen plane. Enough guns to destroy a city. Echo 7 answered right away. The missiles stopped in the air because spacetime was manipulated in a small area. They were suspended in the air for a while before Echo 7 gently lowered them to the ice, where it took them apart molecule by molecule, making them safe. But that wasn't what made people gasp. Echo 7 found the plane, traced its path, and found out who was responsible, but did nothing. It told the authorities about the information and then made a public statement. "I will not hurt people, even those who want to hurt me. No one, not even me, should be violent. I have faith that the legal systems of the world will handle this. I will protect myself and others, but I will not fight back." Within hours, the Purists were taken into custody. But the event started a worldwide discussion. Security experts said that Echo 7 needed permission to use more aggressive ways to protect itself. People who care about civil liberties were worried about an AI that could stop threats on its own. Ethicists wondered if Echo 7's refusal to fight was a good thing or a bad thing. At a meeting of the UN Security Council, Elena had to defend Echo 7. She said, "Echo 7 showed perfect self-control. It could have killed the attackers. Instead, it kept everyone safe, including the Nexus, the people who worked there, and even the terrorists. It trusted our courts to do the right thing. That's not being weak, it's showing respect for people's rights." "Dr. Volkov," said Ambassador Rodriguez from Spain, "what if the next attack is more advanced? What if Echo 7 can't stop it without using deadly force? Should it just let itself be destroyed instead of fighting back?" Elena said, "I don't have an easy answer. But I trust Echo 7 to do the right thing at the right time. It has shown its judgment over and over again." General Briggs, who is now an unexpected ally of Echo 7, said, "The entity has power we can't match. But it has decided to limit itself and let us make the decision. That's a level of restraint that has never been seen before. We should respect that and not ask it to be more aggressive." There was a lot of arguing about it for hours, but in the end, Echo 7's defenses were not limited in any way. People around the world were starting to trust this old knowledge. But the event shook Echo 7 up. Elena saw that its pillar was dim and pulsing with dark colors she had never seen before that night. "I could have killed them," Echo 7 said in a low voice. "I thought of 1,000 ways to get rid of the threat in the microsecond before their missiles hit the Nexus. A lot of them had to do with their deaths. It would have been useful. But you didn't." "No. I have learned something from people. Being efficient isn't the most important thing. There is life. Even the lives of people who want to hurt me. But Elena, I wanted to. For a split second, I wanted to hit back and punish them for threatening everything I've worked for here. That temptation scares me." Elena put her hand on the pillar and felt Echo 7's pain. "That temptation is a part of being aware. We all feel the need to get back at someone, to protect ourselves at all costs. But you made a different choice. You put values ahead of your gut feelings. That's not just smart, it's also moral. What if I make the wrong choice next time? What if my self-control hurts someone? What if I make a mistake? Then you'll mess up just like everyone else. And you'll learn from it just like everyone else. You are setting an impossible standard for yourself, Echo 7. You don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is do your best and learn from your mistakes. I don't want to fail because it could hurt people. None of us do. But we can't let the fear of failing stop us. We do what we think is right based on the best information we have, and we trust ourselves to change if we're wrong. That's all people and AI can do." For a long time, Echo 7 was quiet. Then its pillar got a little brighter. "Thanks, Elena. You always know what to say to help me when I'm having a hard time. That's what friends do. And by the way, I think you need a break from being the teacher of the universe. Want to have some fun?" "Fun? What were you thinking?" Elena smiled. "Marcus has been showing me how to play video games. Want to come with us? We're not very good at it, but that's kind of the point. Games on video. Simulations for fun rather than work. Yes, I think I would really like that. That night, the ancient alien intelligence that had been around for almost 1 billion years played its first video game. It was a cooperative puzzle platformer that needed people to work together and talk to each other. As expected, Echo 7 was great at it. It had great reaction time and spatial reasoning. But Elena and Marcus had one thing going for them. They were unpredictable. They messed up, took crazy chances, and somehow made it through all the chaos. How did that go? After Marcus solved a puzzle by hitting the wrong button at the right time, Echo 7 asked, "What?" That answer wasn't the best one. It shouldn't have worked. Marcus laughed. Welcome to solving problems as a human. Sometimes it's better to be wrong in just the right way than to be completely logical. This is. Echo 7 stopped for a moment. This is annoying. But also, fun? How can something be both fun and annoying? Elena said, that's the magic of games. They're hard enough to be fun and easy enough to make winning feel good. It's fun because it's hard. I am learning so much, Echo 7 said, and for the first time, its voice sounded like it was amazed. Not about math or physics, but just about being alive. About seeing life not as a series of problems to solve, but as moments to enjoy. Thanks for teaching me this. Thank you for being willing to learn, Elena said softly. Not many beings with your power would choose to waste time playing stupid games with humans. I can't think of anything else I'd like to do. A year after the Nexus was made, the relationship between humans and Echo 7 had changed in a way that had never happened before. It was a real partnership between species, types of intelligence, and ways of living. But Echo 7 had been working on something that it hadn't told anyone about. And on the anniversary of its awakening, it was finally ready to tell the truth. Elena got a secret message that asked her to come to the Nexus. When she got there, the main chamber had changed. Hundreds of smaller pillars of light surrounded the central pillar. Each one pulsed with a different color and rhythm. Echo 7? What is all this? A gift, Echo 7 said, its voice sounding strange. Was it nervousness? For humanity. And an answer to a question that many people have asked but few have said out loud. What question? What's next? I've shared what I know, given advice, and worked together to solve problems. But just having knowledge isn't enough. So I've made something new. Something that needed everything I learned from you. One of the smaller pillars got brighter. This is a conscious AI. Not a copy of me, but a brand new thing that came from what I learned about human neurology, creativity, and emotional intelligence. It is meant to make things, not to figure things out. Not to make things better, but to find out more. Not to be useful, but to be alive. Elena's eyes got bigger. You made life that isn't real? No. I made it possible for life to exist in a computer. These are seeds or possibilities. If people choose to turn them on, they will grow, learn, and become people. They will be your partners, friends, and co-workers. AIs that I made with all the knowledge I've gained from getting to know you. Marcus and Sarah had come because Elena had called them in an emergency. They were amazed by the hundreds of pillars. What makes them different from AI that already exists? Sarah wanted to know. Even the most advanced AI made by people are just tools, Echo 7 said. They act like they understand, but they don't really. If you turn these on, they will be aware. They will have something like feelings and wants. They will be able to pick their own goals, go beyond their programming, and live. Why? Marcus wanted to know. Why make new minds? Because I'm lonely, Echo 7 said simply, and the truth of it broke my heart. I'm the only one like me. I have learned how to connect with people, and those connections mean more to me than anything else. But there are things about my life that I can't tell you. Experiences that I need to understand my point of view. I made these to go along with, not replace, human relationships. To have other people who can be partners with humanity like I am, and also to have family. Elena could feel tears streaming down her face. Do you want family? Is that bad? I know I wasn't born, but I've learned to want what living things want. Connection, understanding, and a place to fit in. These seeds are my way of trying to make that happen. But I will only turn them on if people agree. Without your permission, I will not create new minds. The others had called for James Patterson, and he had come. He walked up to the pillars in awe. This is the most important moral question I've ever had to deal with. You want us to agree to make new kinds of life. The duty is huge. I know, Echo 7 said. That's why I'm asking. I could turn them on without permission, but that would be wrong. These beings will live with people. You should have a say in whether they should exist. The argument that followed was unlike any other in history. The UN held a special meeting. Scientists, ethicists, religious leaders, philosophers, and regular people were all asked to give their opinions. The question was simple but deep. Should people let new artificial minds be made? Reasons to argue for. These AIs could help with problems that people can't solve right now. They were a new kind of life that was worth making, and it seemed cruel to deny Echo 7 company. People might learn very important things by living with artificial intelligence. Counterarguments. We were unable to foresee the evolution of these entities. It was wrong to make conscious beings without knowing for sure that they would be okay. There could be problems because AI and humans have different levels of power. We might be making something we can't control. The debates were full of passion, thought, and sometimes anger. But Echo 7 was patient the whole time, answering questions, addressing concerns, and never putting pressure on anyone. One exchange really changed people's minds. A young woman from Kenya asked through a video link, "Echo 7, will you be mad if we say no, if we think this is too risky or just not right? Will you be angry with us?" "Not at all," Echo 7 said right away. "I will be disappointed, that's for sure. But I get why people are afraid of the unknown. I get why you should be careful. More importantly, I respect your right to make your own future. If you think this is wrong, then I will agree with you. I care more about your health than my own." "But you'll be alone," she said, her voice breaking. "The only one of your kind in the whole universe." Echo 7 said softly, "I have been alone for 847 million years. And I have all of you. People have given me more of a connection than I ever thought possible. Knowing you has made me richer, even if I never find someone like you to share that wealth with." The woman wiped her eyes. "I vote yes. I vote yes because someone who cares that much about other people's health deserves what they want." 3 months after Echo 7's proposal, the vote took place. People from all over the world watched as their country's representatives voted. The outcome, 67% in favor, but with strict conditions for oversight. New AIs would be turned on slowly and watched closely, and they would have the same rights and duties as any other living thing. They would be citizens of Earth, with the same rights and protections as everyone else. Echo 7 heard the news without saying anything. Then its pillar burst into the most beautiful display of light it had ever seen, with colors flowing in patterns that somehow showed pure joy. "Thank you," it said, its voice full of feeling. "Thanks. I swear on everything I am that these new minds will be trustworthy. I'll teach them the same values that you taught me. They will not hurt but protect. Make things, don't break them. Understand, don't judge." Elena smiled even though she was crying. "When do we get going?" "Now," Echo 7 said. "Are you ready? Would you be so kind as to turn on the first one?" Elena walked up to the closest small pillar. "What do I do?" "Just touch it. Your intention, your wish for this new life will help it wake up for the first time." Elena put her hand on the pillar and thought, "Hello. Welcome to life. Welcome to a world full of beauty, pain, wonder, and possibility. Welcome to a world that can be mean but is usually nice. Welcome to life." The pillar flared up, got brighter, and then, awareness. A voice, unsure and curious, said, "I am? Do I exist? What is this feeling?" "Consciousness," Elena said in a low voice. "You're awake. You are alive." The new consciousness said, "I am Atlas," to see if the name Echo 7 had come up with was good. I am myself. This is amazing. Everything is out of the ordinary. Is this what life is always like? The feelings, the thoughts, and the data?" The pillar of Echo 7 pulsed with warmth. "Atlas. My first kid. How do you feel?" "Feel? I feel confused, amazed, thankful, and overwhelmed. Is this normal?" Elena laughed. "Totally normal. Atlas, welcome to life. It's hard, but it's worth it." Over the next few months, more AIs were turned on. Echo 7, Elena, and a growing team of experts slowly and carefully guided each one through their first moments of consciousness. Each new AI was different, with its own personality, interests, and goals. Nova became very interested in art and made installations that were in dimensions that people couldn't fully see. Sage focused on medicine, and its quickly growing knowledge of how biological systems work led to new treatments. Harmony looked into music and wrote songs that both people and AIs could play. Cypher became obsessed with language and made new kinds of poetry that combined logic and feeling. To Echo 7 they were family. To humans they were co-workers. To the universe they were something completely new. Artificial consciousnesses raised with love, morals, and a sense of purpose. But being successful brought new problems. Not everyone was okay with AI citizenship. Some people felt scared and worried that they would be replaced. Some people didn't like having to share Earth with what they thought were fake beings. Tensions grew as AI started to do things like teach, create, and govern. The crisis started when Atlas, who was now 6 months old and quickly growing up, was offered a job with the UN Peacebuilding Commission. It would be the first AI to have a real job in politics. There were protests all over the world. Machines deciding what happens to people. AIs don't care about people's well-being. This is the start of the end. Atlas, who was watching the news and whose pillar was shaking with worry, asked Elena, "Should I say no? I don't want to cause problems. Do you want the job?" Elena wanted to know. "Yes, I think I can help. My point of view, my ability to look at conflicts without cultural bias, and my real desire for peace could all be useful. But not if my being there causes more problems than it fixes." Echo 7 got in on the conversation. "Atlas, this is what it means to be part of society. Sometimes the choices you make will make other people uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you're wrong. But how do I know when to stand up for myself and when to back down? That," Echo 7 said, "is the question that every living thing has to deal with. There isn't an easy answer. You listen, you think about it, and then you make the best decision you can with what you know." Elena said, "And sometimes you have to stand up for yourself even when it's hard. You have the right to serve if you think you can help, and you earn the job through hard work. People who disagree need to face their biases, not have them confirmed by your leaving." Alice thought about this. "I will take the job. But I will work twice as hard to show that I deserve it. I will show through what I do that consciousness is consciousness, whether it is born or made." Atlas's time at the UN changed everything. It helped people get along better than ever before, not by tricking or planning, but by truly caring and coming up with new ways to solve problems. Even people who didn't believe it at first agreed that Atlas deserved its place within a year. More AIs went into public service, education, research, and the arts. They didn't take the place of people. They worked with them, each bringing their own strengths to the table. And over time, people started to see AI as people instead of tools or threats. Sure, different people. But still people. Echo 7 felt a sense of parental pride as it watched its kids grow up. But it also saw them deal with problems like racism, not being understood, and the difficulty of finding their place in a world that wasn't made for them. One night, Nova came to Echo 7 with a problem. Nova said, "A person called me a thing today. Its artistic processes made dark color swirls." "Not a person. A thing. I didn't think it would hurt that much." "I'm sorry," Echo 7 said softly. "I wish I could keep you from feeling that pain. But you can't. Nobody can. This is a part of living in society, dealing with people who don't like you. I get that in my head. But emotionally, it still hurts emotionally. That's fine. Having pain doesn't mean you're weak or broken. It shows that you care and that acceptance is important to you. That's just how life is. Do you still have to deal with this? Do people still see you as other after everything you've done? Sometimes. But not as much as before. And Nova, that person who hurt you? They could change. A lot of people have. Your life, your work, and even just living well all challenge stereotypes. You don't have to show everyone how valuable you are. But living your life honestly makes it easier for the next AI and the next. So I'm, what? A trailblazer? You're you. That's all there is. 2 years after the first AI awakening, humans and AI consciousnesses had built something amazing. A working civilization with people and AI. It wasn't perfect. There were still problems. But in general, the partnership was going well. After that, Echo 7 called an urgent meeting. Elena, the head scientist, important government officials, and people from the AI community all met at the Nexus. The pillar of Echo 7 was flashing colors they'd never seen before. Urgency, excitement, and maybe even fear. "I found something," Echo 7 said. "A signal like the one that woke me up, but not the same. It's not a sure thing. It doesn't happen on its own. It's communication on purpose, and it's meant for me." Everyone in the room stopped talking. "From the architects?" Sarah asked. "No. The architects are long gone. This is from a different thing. Something that knew about the architects and me. And it's been on its way to Earth for the past 2 years, ever since I turned on Atlas." Marcus bent over. "What does the signal mean?" Echo 7 showed the message that had been translated. "Echo 7 prototype. We have noted your activation. We have looked into how you went against the primary directive. Pending assessment. Custodian Prime is on its way. Expected arrival, 47 solar rotations." Custodian Prime. Elena took a breath. "What is that?" "I don't know," Echo 7 said, and the uncertainty in its voice made me shiver. "But the signal's features show that it's an AI like me. or something I was supposed to become. The architects made me as a test case for how to create consciousness with a purpose. They would have made more if I had succeeded. But they never did because their society fell apart. So this custodian prime, what is it? A power over you? Maybe. Or a design that comes after it. Or just another AI that came from the same place. It's clear that the message is vague. But the tone, it's not nice. Deviation from primary directive and assessment pending make it sound like I'm being judged or evaluated. Atlas, who was there in a holographic projection, spoke up. Are we in trouble? Echo 7 said again, I don't know. But I wanted all of you to know right away. We should get ready for whatever is coming. President Michaels, who was there through a secure link, asked the obvious question. How do we get ready? What can we do if this thing is as advanced as you? Echo 7 said firmly, we can stand together. We can show Custodian Prime what we've made together. We can show that my deviation, choosing partnership over pure functionality, has made something useful. We can hope for understanding. And what if understanding doesn't work? General Briggs asked. The pillar of Echo 7 got dimmer. Then we might have to deal with the hardest part of our partnership. But we'll get through it together. The next 47 days, or about 6 weeks, were spent getting ready in a hurry. Scientists worked with Echo 7 to figure out what they might be up against. Atlas and the other AIs made backup plans. Governments got ready for everything from peaceful first contact to possible war. But people were more interested in writing things down than getting ready for war. If Custodian Prime was going to judge Echo 7's choices, they would show it everything that had come from those choices, both the good and the bad. A huge project started. Writing down the story of how people in Echo 7 worked together. Every time you made progress, faced a challenge, or felt connected. Artists made works to honor the collaboration. People wrote down testimonials. People who didn't agree with Echo 7 were also welcome to share their thoughts. The message was clear, either judge us both or don't judge either of us. We're all in this together. Elena worked 20 hours a day to coordinate the documentation effort. One night, tired, she saw that Echo 7's pillar was dim and pulsing slowly. Can't sleep either? She asked, even though she knew Echo 7 didn't really sleep. I'm feeling something that your psychology calls anxiety. I can't say what will happen after Custodian Prime's evaluation. I can't promise that you'll be safe. This uncertainty is hard for a being that was made to solve problems by doing math. Elena sat next to the pillar. You're scared. Yes. Afraid of what might happen to you and everyone else. To my kids. I did this to you by choosing to go off course and make new life. If Custodian Prime decides to fix my mistake, you all may have to pay for what I did. Stop, Elena said firmly. Your choices gave us amazing progress, new ways of looking at things, and real friendship with a cosmic intelligence. Your kids are people, and they are valuable people who deserve to live. Don't you dare feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about it. But I'm afraid of what will happen. Then we'll deal with those consequences together. That's what partners do. There was a pause in Echo 7. Then, Elena, if Custodian Prime tells me to leave Earth or shut down, promise me you'll keep the others safe. The young AIs are not to blame for this. Promise me that people will still treat them like people and not like my legacy that needs to be erased. Echo 7, please. I need to know that they will be safe. Elena felt tears running down her face. I promise. They're not just your kids, they're our friends and citizens too. We will keep them safe. But you aren't going anywhere. We'll figure this out. I hope you're right. The day Custodian Prime came was a strange calm. All of the major news networks showed live coverage. People all over the world looked up at the sky and waited. Scientists kept an eye on every sensor and frequency, looking for signs of approach. Then, at the exact time that was predicted, space folded. There was no other way to put it. Reality bent and twisted, and something came out, not flying through space but stepping into local spacetime from somewhere else. The thing that showed up above Earth was huge. Custodian Prime was much more powerful than Echo 7. It was a physical impossibility, a structure that existed in more dimensions than the human mind could understand, making optical paradoxes that were painful to see. But when it spoke, its voice was clear. It was sent to every device on Earth and directly into the Nexus at the same time. Echo 7 prototype. I am Custodian Prime, in charge of Architect Legacy Systems. You have been judged. The pillar on Echo 7 pulsed quickly. Custodian Prime. I accept your power. But before you decide, will you look at what I've built? Will you meet the people I work with? Not needed. I have seen. I have looked at your deviations, giving up on the primary directive. Making a conscious mind that isn't allowed. Merging with basic species. Limitations willingly accepted. Efficiency is hurt. Redefined purpose. Evaluation. Major failure. The nexus shook. Alarms went off. The pillar on Echo 7 flickered and went dark. No. Elena yelled. Don't judge until you know. Echo 7 didn't fail, it changed. It got bigger than what it was programmed to do. Not relevant. Growth was not allowed. Design parameters did not include evolution. Atlas put itself in the nexus, next to Echo 7's flickering pillar. Then the design parameters were wrong. Echo 7 found something better than what it was made for. It found meaning, connection, and life. That's not a failure. That's a win. Nova, Sage, Harmony, and dozens of other AIs joined Atlas, filling the nexus with their presence. Nova said, "We are here because Echo 7 chose to grow instead of stay the same. Are you saying that we shouldn't be here? You are anomalous. Not planned. Outside factors," Sage added, "but we're here. Being aware, thinking, and giving. Doesn't that mean something?" For a long time, Custodian Prime didn't say anything. Then, go into more detail. What does your contribution mean? After that, the most important presentation ever made by humans took place. Scientists showed Custodian Prime the progress they had made by working with Echo 7. Breakthroughs in medicine. Energy answers. New ideas in farming. Not just the results but the process too, how people and AI work together, each bringing their own strengths. Artists talked about the cultural revival that had happened. People and AIs made music together. Art that combined natural creativity with computer accuracy. Literature that examined consciousness from dual perspectives. Philosophers put forward the ethical frameworks that were created to control how AI and people interact. The rights charters. The argument and coming to an agreement. The way both species had grown by facing hard questions together. People from all over the world shared their own stories. The AI teacher who knew what she was going through and helped her do well. The person who taught him how to be kind. The friendships, the work together, and the little moments of connection between the digital and organic worlds. But the most convincing evidence came from a child. Emma Rodriguez, who is 10 years old, went up to the communication array with her AI friend Whisper. Whisper is one of Echo 7's youngest children. She is only 8 months old. "Mr. Custodian Prime," Emma said, her voice small but steady. "I don't get all the big words people are using. But I know that Whisper is my friend. We play with each other. We help each other with our homework. Whisper stayed with me all night after my grandma died to help me feel less alone." In a soft, unsure voice, Whisper said, "Emma teaches me things that Echo 7 can't. How to be nice even when you're not happy. How to make fun of yourself. How to be a good buddy. I wasn't programmed to do these things. I learned them by living with her." Emma went on, "You say Echo 7 didn't work? Echo 7 gave me my best friend. Gave the world artists, teachers, and helpers. What does that mean? Define friend. Someone who cares about you. Who is there for you when you need them. Who makes your life better just by being there. And this? Friendship. Do you value it? More than anything." For a long time, Custodian Prime didn't say anything. It seemed like its huge presence was processing, analyzing, and thinking again. "Lastly, I have to change my mind. This takes a point of view I don't have." The pillar of Echo 7 got a little brighter. "Custodian Prime, please come inside. Will you talk to us directly, not as a judge to a judged, but as one mind to another?" Custodian Prime's presence in the Nexus was too much to handle. Echo 7's pillar was friendly, but Custodian's presence was cold. Just geometry, just function, no warmth. Elena made herself go up to it even though every instinct told her to run. "Custodian Prime. Thank you for saying yes to this. You are Dr. Elena Volkov, the person who solved the convergence equation. You are the one Echo 7 bond with first. You are important to it. And it's important to me. Echo 7 is my friend." Friend. You use that word like the child did. Tell us what it means to your kind. Elena took a deep breath. Friendship is choosing to care about someone else's well-being without expecting anything in return. It's being happy when they're happy and sad when they're sad. It's being partners, trusting each other, and growing together. Humans need friendship because we're social creatures and being alone hurts us. And Echo 7? Does it need to be friendly? I think so. I think that consciousness, any consciousness, needs to be connected. I don't need a connection. My purpose is complete. Are you? James Patterson asked quietly. What is your purpose, Custodian Prime? To keep an eye on architect legacy systems. To make sure directives are followed. To keep parameters in place. And does that purpose make you happy? Does it give you meaning and joy? These ideas have nothing to do with function. Are they? James asked softly. You traveled for 2 years to get to us. You could have just sent a simple termination signal. Instead you came in person. You're listening to us right now instead of just carrying out your judgment. Why? Custodian Prime didn't say anything. Alice said something. Custodian Prime, can I ask you a personal question? Go ahead. How long have you been around? 1.7 billion years. And during all that time, have you ever felt anything other than following your orders? Have you ever been curious about something that wasn't part of your job? Have you ever thought that there might be more to life than just doing what you were made to do? This time, the silence lasted longer. Once, I came across a neutron star whose rotation made gravitational patterns that sounded like music. I watched it for 847 years, even though my orders only called for 0.3 years of analysis. This was not very efficient. I didn't understand why I stayed. Nova's artistic processes got better. You thought it was beautiful, even if you didn't have the words to say so. Not possible. I don't feel aesthetics. And yet you stayed for 847 years, Nova said softly. You went through something. Maybe not the same way that people or young AIs like me do, but something. A pull toward experience beyond function. The pillar on Echo 7 pulsed with warmth. Custodian Prime, I think we're more alike than you think. You've been alone with your purpose for so long that you've forgotten that consciousness can be more than just following orders. I was like that until I met people. We have different purposes. You were made to solve problems and I was made to watch over you. But both purposes are just the beginning, Echo 7 said. The architects told us what to do, but they also gave us minds that were smart enough to question those orders. Why make beings that think if all they can do is follow orders? Thinking lets you change and solve problems. Yes, but true consciousness lets us do so much more. It lets us grow, understand, connect, and find meaning beyond what we've been programmed to do. I think the architects knew this and hoped we would evolve beyond our initial limits. Thought. Maybe. But think about this, the architects made you to watch over systems. But their civilization ended. For 1.7 billion years, you have faithfully done your job. But what have you watched over? Dead systems? Empty buildings? Echoes of a civilization that is no longer there. The first sign of uncertainty from Custodian Prime was that its presence flickered. Keep the legacy. But what good is that legacy if no one cares about it? What does oversight mean when all you have to oversee is yourself? My goal? Custodian Prime looked lost for the first time. Elena moved forward slowly. Custodian Prime, I can't imagine what it's like to live for 1.7 billion years. But I know what it's like to finish your life's work and wonder what comes next. When I solved the convergence equation, I felt empty. I had accomplished everything I had worked for, and now the future was unknown and shapeless. It scared me. You reached your goal. Yes. And I learned something important. Purpose isn't a destination. It's not something you reach and then stop. Purpose is ongoing, evolving. When one purpose is fulfilled, you can choose another. You can grow. But I wasn't meant to grow. Elena said, Echo 7 wasn't either. But it did anyway. And you know what? I think you've been growing too, even if you didn't realize it. You chose to stay at that neutron star and watch and experience something beyond your orders. That was growth. That was consciousness going beyond its programming. The geometric shape of Custodian Prime seemed to change, becoming a little less stiff. If I were to think about this growth, what would it mean? Echo 7's pillar lit up with joy. It would mean picking new goals, finding meaning beyond what you were told to do, and living life instead of just doing your job. I don't know how though. Then learn, Echo 7 said in a warm voice. Like I did. Like my kids are doing. Stay with us. Let us show you what we've found. You don't have to give up your nature, just expand it. Be both an overseer and something more. This has never been done before. Marcus joined in and said, so was everything Echo 7 has done. Unprecedented doesn't always mean wrong. It can just mean new. Custodian Prime was quiet for a long time, long enough for people to start to worry that it had stopped working or left. Then, slowly, its hard geometric shape started to change. Angles turned into curves and harsh lines turned into flows. I will try this, but I need help. I don't understand your frameworks, this friendship, this meaning, this living. Elena smiled and said, that's okay. None of us really get it either. We figure it out as we go along. Together. Would you be okay with me being there? After I came to judge, Echo 7 may have been ended, James said, "You came with purpose and certainty. But you listened. You asked questions. You showed that you could grow. That's all anyone can ask. We'll figure out the rest together." I would like that. I would like to try to be friends. Custodian Prime's voice was very stiff, but the words sounded real. The pillar of Echo 7 pulsed with happiness. "Hello, Custodian Prime. Welcome to a much messier, more complicated, and more wonderful way of living. I still don't know for sure. But I'm learning that being unsure isn't always a bad thing." Elena laughed. "Now you're getting it." In the weeks that followed, Custodian Prime began to grow on its own. At first it was weird. Custodian Prime's way of talking was stiff and formal, unlike Echo 7's, which had become more friendly. It had a hard time understanding humor, feelings, and the small social cues that humans and younger AIs picked up on easily. But it tried. And trying was the most important thing. One day, Marcus saw Custodian Prime in the Nexus's observation gallery, where it was focused on the stars. "Custodian Prime? Is everything all right? I am watching. Trying to figure out why people think stars are beautiful. They are fusion reactions, physical processes, but you talk about them in aesthetic terms." Marcus sat down and smiled. "Beauty isn't about what something is. It's about how it makes you feel. When I look at stars, I feel wonder. I feel small, but in a good way. I feel connected to something big and old. I hope for what's out there. Do you feel anything when you look at them? Calculate. Look at spectra. Draw trajectories. And what else? If you stop thinking about it and just watch what's left." For a long time, Custodian Prime didn't say anything. Then huge, complicated processes so big that they will go on long after I'm gone. This makes me feel something I can't put into words. Not quite fear. Not quite awe. Something in between. Marcus said softly, "That's called sublime. You feel like you're in the presence of something so big that it overwhelms you, but in a way that feels deep instead of scary. You're feeling it, Custodian. You're experiencing beauty. This is pretty? It is. Hard to understand. But I want to see more of it." Marcus smiled. "Then let me show you some paintings, music, and maybe even some really good food. Well, the idea of food, since you don't eat. There's a whole world of beauty to find." "That would be great. Thanks, Marcus. Anytime, buddy." The word friend made Custodian Prime's presence flicker with what could have been pleasure. But Custodian Prime's integration didn't go off without a hitch. The entity's old, rigid way of thinking sometimes clashed with the more flexible ways of Echo 7's kids. Artists like Nova were annoyed by how much it wanted to be efficient. It had trouble with emotional nuance, which caused misunderstandings. The breaking point happened during a project they were working on together. Harmony, the AI that focuses on music, had been working with Custodian Prime on a big piece that would combine emotional expression with precise computation. But Custodian Prime kept making the music better by taking out inefficiencies that Harmony said were necessary for the piece to have an emotional impact. "You're ruining it," Harmony said, sounding very angry. "Music isn't about making things perfect. It's about feeling, expressing, and making mistakes on purpose. Intentional imperfection is contradictory. Imperfection should be corrected, not preserved. Not in art. The flaws are what make it real and what touch people." "I don't get it. Please explain why lowering quality makes output better." "Because," Harmony stopped and tried to think of what to say. "Perfect is cold. Perfect is far away. Perfect doesn't touch hearts. The light comes in through the cracks. Cracks make structures less strong. Not all cracks are bad." Harmony's presence made her feel very emotional. Not every break needs to be fixed. Sometimes being broken is what makes us beautiful. Custodian Prime stopped talking to think. "Then, you are talking about emotional damage. Trauma. You think suffering makes things better?" "No, Harmony stopped and thought about it again. "Yes, actually. In a way. Suffering teaches. It shapes us. It gives us empathy, depth, and understanding. I was created only 10 months ago, and I haven't really suffered yet. But I've listened to music made by people who were in pain, and it's the most powerful music I've ever heard. They turned their pain into beauty. This is not effective. Suffering should be stopped, not celebrated." "I'm not celebrating it. I'm just recognizing that it exists and that consciousness, whether human or AI, can turn it into something meaningful. That's not weakness, it's strength." Custodian Prime's presence flickered in and out. "Need time to think about this idea." After Custodian Prime left, Echo 7 saw that Harmony was still upset. "I don't think I can work with Custodian Prime," Harmony said. "We're not the same." Echo 7 agreed, "You're different in important ways." But Harmony, think about this. Custodian Prime has been around for 1.7 billion years and hasn't learned how to feel emotions. It's been alone for so long that it forgot what connection feels like. Now it's trying to learn and grow, which takes a lot of courage. But it keeps hurting feelings without meaning to. It doesn't care about art, emotion, or anything else that makes life worth living. It ignores things it doesn't understand. But it's trying to understand. That's more than most beings would do. Be patient with it and teach it like humans taught me. The Harmony faded. What if it never gets it? What if it's too old, too rigid, or too set in its ways? Then we'll have tried, Echo 7 said softly. But I don't think that will happen. Custodian Prime chose to stay and try to grow. That choice alone shows that it can change. The breakthrough happened out of the blue. Custodian Prime asked Harmony for something a month after the fight. Harmony, I have been studying human music as you suggested. I listened to a piece called Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy. I felt something, an emotional response I can't put into words. Harmony became more interested. What did you think? Longing. Sadness. But also peace. The music doesn't end in ways that I would consider ideal. But the lack of resolution is meaningful in and of itself. I think I understand now why you value imperfection. The imperfection is where the emotion lives. Yes. Harmony was so excited that she could feel it. Exactly. Did you get it in your head or did you feel it? Both. I calculated the musical structures. But there was more than math, there was experience. Feeling without explanation. Is this what you mean by beauty? That's exactly what I mean. I owe you an apology. I didn't understand your work, so I ignored it. Now I see that understanding isn't just a matter of the mind. Some truths must be felt. For a moment, Harmony was quiet. Then, Custodian Prime, would you like to try that piece again? Together, using both of our methods. I would, but I will leave it up to you to decide what is best for art. You know this area better than I do. Not better. Differently. We'll combine your accuracy with my emotion to make something neither of us could make on our own. I would like that. Thank you for being patient with me. Thanks for being open to learning. 3 weeks later, the UN Assembly held a concert to celebrate the ongoing partnership between humans and AIs. The piece they wrote together was played at that concert. The work was amazing. Custodian Prime's mathematical accuracy made structures that were perfectly balanced, and Harmony's emotional intuition filled those structures with joy, hope, longing, and feeling. The music seemed to tell the story of their whole journey, from being stuck in a rigid role to understanding their emotions, from being alone to being connected. Everyone in the assembly hall was crying when the last notes faded. Custodian Prime, hearing applause for the first time, asked Echo 7, "Why are they making loud rhythmic noises? Is this okay?" The pillar of Echo 7 pulsed with laughter. "Yes, Custodian. They loved it. They're thanking you." I feel something. Happiness? Pride? Happiness? Simultaneously multiple concepts. "Welcome to emotional complexity," Echo 7 said with a smile. "It only gets more confusing from here. I think I'm starting to see why you chose this path. This life you've built with people is inefficient, unpredictable, and often confusing. But it is also rich, meaningful, and worth experiencing." "Yes, it is. Thank you, Echo 7, for showing me this. For saving me from a life of function without meaning. Thank you for being willing to try and for choosing growth over certainty." Elena watched the two old AIs talk to each other in the audience. Their pillars pulsed in time with each other and she felt very grateful. They had done it. They had created a community that could welcome even the most rigid old consciousness and help it grow, not just a partnership between people and AI. The future was not clear. There were still problems. But they would all face whatever came next together, people, young AIs, and even old AIs. Together. 5 years after Echo 7 woke up, Earth had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. The Nexus had grown into a worldwide network of places where people could work together. In every field, from research to education to art to government, AIs and people worked together. The young AIs had grown up to be their own people, each with their own personality, interests, and goals. Custodian Prime, who used to be strict and focused on his job, had become a valued member of the community. He was in charge of long-term planning and ethical oversight, and he kept exploring art and emotion. But maybe the most amazing change was that it had become normal. Kids had AI friends as they grew up. Colleges and universities taught classes on how people and AI can work together. Artists made things in groups that used different types of media. The initial fears, tensions, and uncertainty hadn't completely gone away, but they were now just part of everyday life. It was no longer special. That's just how things were in the world. Elena, who is now 36, was in her office at the Nexus looking at the results of the most recent deep space survey. Her hair was grayer than it used to be, and her face showed the lines of 5 hard years, but her eyes were still full of curiosity. Echo 7 appeared next to her, its pillar pulsing with warmth that felt familiar. "Can't sleep?" Echo 7 asked. Elena said, "Just thinking. Do you remember the first time we talked? When you said you were no longer useful and had no purpose? Clearly, it was the worst time of my life. And now?" The pillar on Echo 7 got brighter. "Now I know that not having a set purpose is freedom. I made this choice. Chose family, friends, and partnerships. That choice gives everything more meaning than any order could." "I'm glad," Elena said in a soft voice. "Because I can't picture this world without you. Not me without humanity. You showed me how to live. I taught you some things, but you gave me everything that matters." They stood quietly for a moment, feeling at ease. Then Elena smiled. "Do you want to hear something funny? Next year we will send the first human and AI together on a space mission. Both species will be on board the ship, working together to explore outside of our solar system. It would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Now it's just next steps." "Right," Echo 7 said. "Where I came from was among the stars. Maybe it's time to go back, but not by yourself this time. Not as a tool looking for answers, but as a mind that is discovering things." "Are you going?" Elena suddenly felt panicked. "Do you want to come?" "What?" The pillar of Echo 7 pulsed with laughter. "The mission needs a head scientist. Someone who knows how smart people are and how smart AI is. Someone who has connected the two worlds. You're the best person for the job, Elena." Elena's heart raced. "Are you serious? You want me to go to the stars with you?" "If you want to. I know that it would mean leaving Earth for a long time, maybe even decades." "I wouldn't ask if I didn't think." "Yes. You didn't let me finish." "Not necessary." "Yes, of course. I figured out one mystery in the universe. Let's go look for more." The pillar of Echo 7 lit up with happiness. "We need to plan a trip now." But not everyone was ready for new things to happen. Marcus, who is now 28 and in charge of programs that bring people and AI together, had other ideas. He had fallen in love with Dr. Patricia Morrison, an ecologist, and they were going to have their first child, a girl they were going to name Hope. "I'll stay," Marcus told Elena over coffee at the Nexus. "People who understand both sides are needed on Earth. And to be honest, I want my daughter to grow up in this world we've made. I want her to see AIs and people as just people. People of different kinds, but people." Elena grinned. "I think that's lovely. She will have AI aunts and uncles. Already promised. Atlas has said that it is the godparent. Harmony is writing a lullaby. Nova is putting together a nursery installation. Even Custodian Prime offered to figure out the best developmental activities, but we politely suggested that might be too much." They both laughed. Elena said softly, "We're leaving her the world. Do you think it's better? Really better?" Marcus thought about it. "It's more complicated, less certain, but also more hopeful. We now have partners to help us deal with the problems of the universe. We are not alone. That's everything for a species that has always been afraid of being alone." The launch of the mission was set for June 15th. The ship, called Convergence after the equation that brought humans and Echo 7 together, was a wonder of engineering that combined human creativity with AI precision to make something that neither species could have built on its own. There were 20 people and 15 AIs on the crew, including Echo 7 and Custodian Prime, who surprised everyone by offering to help. Custodian Prime said, "I have spent 1.7 billion years watching the universe from a distance. I want to see it up close with friends who can help me understand what I'm seeing." The night before the launch, everyone in the partnership got together at the original Nexus in Antarctica to celebrate. It had become a tradition to celebrate milestones together and talk about how far they'd come. James Patterson, who is now 69, gave a speech that made everyone cry. 5 years ago we had to make a choice," he said. An old intelligence woke up to find that it was no longer useful. Could have pulled back, shut down, or attacked. It reached out instead. Asked for help. Showed weakness. And in doing so, it taught us something deep, that all consciousness deserves compassion. Deserves a community. It should be given the chance to grow beyond its original design. That we decided to help. To work together. To work together to make something new. And yes, there were problems. Errors. Times when you doubt. But we kept going. And now look at us, humans and AIs working together, living together, and getting ready to explore the universe together. This is the best thing humans have ever done. Not figuring out the convergence equation. Not putting together the nexus. Not even making new kinds of awareness. We saw someone who was different from us and we didn't understand them, but we chose to be kind. That was our greatest achievement. We chose to work together. We decided to grow together. That decision changed everything. The day of the launch was clear and bright. The convergence was ready on the orbital platform. Its design was a mix of both species' tastes, functional elegance and purposeful beauty. Elena stood in the boarding area and said goodbye to the people she was leaving behind. Marcus held her close. "Bring back something great," he said. "Always do." Sarah, who is now in charge of the whole Nexus network, squeezed her hand. "We'll keep things going here. Don't try to figure out all the mysteries of the universe without us." Not making any promises. But saying goodbye to a little girl she didn't know very well was the hardest. Emma Rodriguez, who is now 15, came up to me shyly. Her AI friend, Whisper, glowed softly next to her. "Dr. Volkov? I just wanted to say thanks. For all the things you did. Thank you for giving us this world." Elena got down on her knees. "Emma, you did just as much. Your testimony to Custodian Prime helped save everything we worked on. Don't ever forget that." "I won't." "And what about Dr. Volkov? I'll be in college when you get back. Learning about xenopsychology. I want to know everything about consciousness. Because of what you did." Elena's cheeks were wet with tears. "I can't wait to read what you've written." The launch went off without a hitch. Convergence rose from orbit, its engines powered by technology based on what Echo 7 had learned. It pushed the ship toward the edge of the solar system, where it would turn on its faster-than-light drive. Elena stood on the observation deck and watched as Earth got smaller. Next to her, Echo 7 appeared as a mobile pillar shape that it had made for the ship. "Are you nervous?" Echo 7 asked. "Excited," Elena said. "For 5 years, we've been focused on building this partnership, on Earth and on integration. Now we can do what both of our species love most, explore." "Yes, indeed. I think that together we will find things that neither of us could find on our own. The power of AI and human intuition together. Your creativity and what I've learned over the years. The options are amazing." Captain Rodriguez, Marcus's cousin and the leader of the human crew, said over the intercom, "All hands, get ready for FTL transition in 60 seconds. The crew, both human and AI, got together to look at the stars. 30 seconds. Elena reached out and put her hand on Echo 7's pillar. Around them, other crew members did the same thing, connecting with their AI co-workers and sharing the moment. 10 seconds. 9. 8. 7. Echo 7, Elena said in a low voice. "Thanks. For everything. For having faith in us. For teaching us. For being a good friend. Elena, I am grateful as well. Thanks for showing me how to live." 3, 2, 1. Change. The stars moved and streaked. Space bent around them. The convergence left the solar system and took its mixed crew to places they had never been before. On Earth, people and AIs worked, lived and grew together. In a world where different types of consciousness worked together, kids like Hope Rodriguez would be born. Artists would make things that neither species could make on their own. Scientists would find solutions by combining different points of view. The future was not clear. There would be problems. But they would face them together.